Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
But before we get into that, let's go back to the beginning. Since I was a kid, I always had a dream to own a Nissan 350 Desert, and in May 2022, that dream became a reality. While scrolling on Facebook Marketplace, I came across an ad for this 350S, and I knew I had to have it. With all the finances sorted, it was finally time to collect the 350Z. I had my first ride as a passenger, and to say this car surpassed all my expectations is an understatement. Since I had finally achieved my goal of owning my dream car, I spent a lot of time documenting all the joy I had with it. I was pretty active on social media, and I wanted to share my journey with the car as it is, all the build process and all the fun events that happened during that time. At first it was more about enjoying the car as it is, because I wanted to get used to the car as is, and since the car had been tastefully modded by the previous owner, Brembo brakes, carbon fiber body parts, nitrous system, and a good sounding exhaust, I had little to no need to upgrade it further at this point. Having lowered the car just a bit, it was just perfect for me, and I enjoyed every second of owning it. When I finally reached the point where I knew what I wanted to upgrade, I started slowly modding the car. First step was adding a subwoofer for a little extra bass. For that, I used the factory subwoofer location as the first location to test it out. With the audio sorted, the first season was mostly spent just enjoying and exploring the car further, going to meets, creating content, and making friends in the process. Skipping forward to season 2023, it was time to bring the car out of winter hibernation and start modding it further. First steps were the interior, where I started making big changes, from the headliner to the plastic trim changes. Also, at this point, I was getting more and more comfortable with the car and started having fun with it. With my love for audio, I decided it's time to step up my game and go to the next level with this build. Started off by fully sound deadening the entire interior from the trunk to the doors and hats and everything in between. I had it covered in 2 layers of sound deadening. And at this point, I swapped out both the front and rear speakers for Audison speakers and also got a new license plate for the car 50 NFS. At this point, the trunk was finished, and it was time to hit my first official event of the year.
The car has been like a dream car for me since like 2004 because the first game console I got was a PlayStation 2, so I had Need for Speed Underground 2 on there, so the intro car, 350Z, but it seemed way out of my price range, but now that I saw them spiking and spiking, I decided it's like now or never, so I got it. When I was a kid, I really like when people drove fast. I try to get them to rev cars, so anytime I see a kid looking at the car, I have to rev it, like get their attention, because that's what inspired me, so I try to inspire others.
At this point, I grew tired of the black look and decided it was time for a big change. I tore off the wrap to see what was underneath and started painting the car and adding a livery. Before the livery, it was time to give the car a final clean and polish, which just made the carbon and paint pop. With the livery finally on, it was just in time for my friend's wedding. After that, we went and shot a few rollers. Since we had gotten along so well and my car really fit the theme, the cartoon team reached out to me so we could go and shoot a promo video for their upcoming event. The event itself was a huge success, and we had over 2,000 guests visiting the show. Next up, it was time for a track day. This was my first ever experience on the track, and I was taking it easy and making a lot of mistakes also. Had a lot of fun and enjoyed this day a lot. Here is one session of the day. With all the events finished for this year, it was time for one last drive to bring the 350Z to its winter home. Since we had a little time to kill it, decided to give my friend's girlfriend a ride in the car and then head to the garage to drop off the car.
Neljandaid ta ei võtaks, vaata.
My dream car
Ja
was
siis sai minema ja siis ta võttis uuesti ja viskas nii hullult ära, et no... Siis läks õnnetud, et ta kuuletas temalt.
No teil on ikka teisel pool kurvis, siit otsa.
Here you can see all the marks where I went off and hit the ditch, doing 2 spins and ending up in the ditch again. The car had worn tires on both the front and rear and the weather was awful. Ended up hydroplaning and lost all control. Luckily, no harm to me or the passenger.
Hope my dad won't notice.
Having washed the car and checked all the damage, I started slowly removing all the broken pieces and seeing what needed to be bought and swapped. My friends came to my aid with both labor and financially, and we started piecing the car together so it would be able to roll, and we looked at what condition the engine was in.
No.
Luckily, the engine was fine and we got the car prepped and ready to go to the body shop. But sadly, the body shop was the last stop for the 350 beans. We had managed to get most of the pieces to finish it and rebuild it. But due to my health issues and having a project car already in the making, I just wasn't able to afford the 350 downs and had to sell it. So this is where the story ended for me.